Welcome to Two Chicks and a Horror Flick, a weekly horror movie review podcast. I'm Tawny Ray.
And I'm Felicia Connor. Subscribe to get new episodes every Wednesday. We dive into trivia, drink a little whiskey, and of course, give our no BS opinions.
Join our Discord server or message us on social media to talk all things scary.
And if you like the show, consider supporting us on Patreon.
You can find all these links on our website, twochicksandahorrorflick.com. Thanks for listening.
Now let's get scared.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to talk today about Pandorum. And because of that, we have a super special guest, my boyfriend, Jade.
Hello.
Yay!
Welcome, Jade.
The myth, the man, the legend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, so I'm really glad that you guys included me on this because I'm stoked to talk about it at any point. I've seen it, I don't know, 5 times, 10 times, lots of times. And yeah, I want to know what you thought. I tried to ask you earlier, but you wouldn't tell me. So now that we have officially started the podcast, did you like it, yes or no?
There are some things that we have to get through, Jade, before we...
Oh my God. I just want to talk about this movie. All right, let me know. I'm just going to leave. Actually, I can't because I didn't wear any pants. So I'll just wait. I'm just kidding. Tawny made me wear pants.
I did make him wear pants.
But your seats are hooked together, so...
Yeah, we are kind of locked in here.
And we're holding hands. You can't see it. But...
We will let you know when we're ready.
Okay.
Yes. And this has been a long time coming because I knew that Jade loved this movie and wanted to talk about it on the podcast. So I think we've been talking about this for a year. I think it actually was June of last year that we talked about we should have Steve and Jade on Two Chicks and a Dick. And
no, two dicks and a horror flick.
No, yeah, but that would be you guys, just you two.
Oh, so this is Two Chicks and a Dick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I've been holding this in my brain for Jade so that he can talk about this. And this month, so we're doing all sci-fi horror. And that was inspired because we're going to have AFOF on our podcast, and they chose The Thing. Mm-hmm. And so we were inspired by that pick to just keep it going with the sci-fi horror. So here we are. First June sci-fi horror movie, Pandorum. Jade's pick.
Nice.
This guy.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what everybody's drinking. Felicia, what are you drinking?
All right. So I went over to my new neighbor's house. They're new. We don't live by them yet because our house is being built, but we went over there. They moved in. So hi, Kayla. And she introduced me to, this is going to sound absurd, I've never had a White Claw before, ever. And she had these mango White Claws, and they were so yummy that we went to the store and bought some right after. So I have a mango White Claw, I have a jug of water, and I have a Petal Peach Marigold Basil water as well.
I don't know if I'm gonna, on deck.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to feel that good after all these flavors, but I'm excited. It's all fruit. It's all good. How about you guys?
Well, this episode is brought to you by Vizzy. It's a hard seltzer. Can I say that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
it's not.
It's it's got a hint of raspberry and tangerine. It's pretty good though. I like these Vizzies. We've had a couple different flavor packs, and yeah, I like it.
I thought you just spent quite a while showing me that it was watermelon strawberry.
Hey, you're right.
You got a new
that was
one.
My last one. I'm going to drink too already. Okay. What time is it? Oh, it's not even noon. You guys know how to party.
Oh, shit. How about you, Tawny?
I am drinking an Olipop. Ugh, I can't get it out of the sleeve. Whatever. You're just going to have to take my word for it. It's a strawberry vanilla Olipop. Love these. And
that's non-alcoholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flavored.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just flavored water. I need to try that.
I had too many Vizzies on Friday night, and so I'm done drinking forever.
Yeah, yesterday was rough.
Definitely hungover. Anyways. Okay, so now that we've talked about what we're drinking, let's ask Jade some questions.
Oh, okay.
So Jade. We ask everybody these questions so that our listeners can get to know you.
Cool.
I know that you like horror.
I do like horror, yeah. I would say that's accurate.
Tell the people about your history, how you came to like horror.
My history and how I came to like. Do you want are those separate things or just my history of how horror came into my life?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it all started when I was a wee lad. I think my dad made me watch Alien when I was just a child. Just very small, probably too small to watch Alien. And it scared the crap out of me. I remember having nightmares about aliens coming through my rib cage. And I remember him telling me, at one point, like, I have this like vivid memory of him telling me like all of these people are actors and like this is all just make believe. It's not real, And I was just so confused. I remember being like, where would they get these aliens to act like this? Because I'm not very smart.
That is awesome. Where are they getting these aliens?
Yeah, like I didn't fully grasp.
They're such good actors.
I know. Like, okay, so this is all make-believe, but the aliens are definitely real. And so, we started with that. And then I got into all the, I think I at some point was shown all the Chucky movies when I was probably too young to see them. And I just, I've just been into... I think it comes back to being like a teenager and seeing horror movies in the theater was like just a ritual for me and my friend group when I was in high school or middle school and high school. Like Friday night horror movies were just always really fun to go do. And I think that's probably my favorite part of the horror movie is like going to the theater and watching the horror movie and being like I'm a big flincher,
Oh yeah.
Like when something pops up, I'll spill my popcorn. Like I remember in it when there's a scene where he runs across the water at the little kid, or at they're all little kids, but he runs across the water at him, and I seized. I lost control of my body, and I think that was the fun part. Is when we were younger, we would kind of laugh at each other for flinching, and we weren't. There was like an annoying group of kids that would never take the horror movie seriously because, they were always like, I don't know if it was like maybe they were self-conscious. So they would like laugh at all this stuff. But like me and my friend group, we always bought in. And so we were always real scared with the horror movies. And it was just a fun time, and even watching a horror movie at home now just reminds me of going to the movies. And I think that's what it's all about,
I think my husband is a part of the that friend group that laughs at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like if he sits down and he watches it, he's already on this is going to be stupid. Like he doesn't even give it a chance. So it has to be really good for him to say, okay, that was really good.
Yeah, and I think in any media, or I should say genre, like if it's fantasy or if it's horror or if it's even comedy, you have to like buy in like this that I'm watching is going to accomplish the job that it set out to do. And I'm ready for that. If you all of a sudden just start laughing at something that's supposed to be scary, you're not really giving it a chance to do its job. And you're kind of like robbing yourself of that experience, which sucks. But
agreed.
I'll have you talk to him. Maybe you can counsel
we'll
him a little bit.
We'll do our own episode.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie?
Or one of them?
Pandorum's up there for sure. It kind of falls into this like sci-fi horror genre for me. Like, I think number one favorite of all time. Man, that's really hard.
It's a tough question.
Yeah, keep thinking about it.
I'll think about it, yeah. Yeah, I'll think about it.
But would you say that horror is it's probably not your favorite genre?
No, I don't think horror is my favorite genre. I really like period pieces. I really like things that are kind of like gritty, like Ironclad, if anybody has seen that. I like things that try to be historically accurate and also have this like brutal violence to them, like Braveheart, things like that, that are just like
Braveheart.
I just like stuff that gives you a glimpse into the past. And so, yeah, if there was like a period piece horror movie, do you guys know about anything like that? Because I'd be into that.
We watched one, remember?
What was it?
Black Death, I think is what it was. It had Sean Bean in it. You remember this?
No, I don't.
This is good. You definitely remember if we started looking. It was good.
Okay. Yeah. But I like stuff like that. That's probably my favorite. I really liked, this was kind of horror. What was that movie you watched? Headhunter? Did you watch that?
No, you watched it.
Oh man, if you guys haven't seen Headhunter, that was cool. It was a period piece, low budget, but like really well done, and horror for sure. That was a good movie.
I thought for sure you were going to say fantasy.
The problem with fantasy is there aren't a whole lot of fantasy movies that are done well. I feel like to really have good fantasy, you have to have kind of high budget. And I think the Lord of the Rings stuff, I probably shouldn't say this on a podcast, but I just don't feel like Lord of the Rings is really that fantasy. I feel like it's way more of a period piece with a little bit of fantasy stuff. Obviously, there are fantasy races, but I really like the magical aspects of fantasy, and I don't think Gandalf is really much of a wizard in the sense of like casting huge spells. I know, right?
Those are fighting words.
I know. I mean, yeah. Anyway.
Do you like Harry Potter?
Oh God, here we go again. See, I'm.
Well, because you just said wizards and casting spells.
You're right, and I'm about to lose my entire audience that I've gained.
Do you
up
really
until this
like
point.
fantasy and magic? I'm questioning this.
And that's the thing. I feel like for me, it goes back to for me, fantasy is set in this specific period. I like medieval fantasy, so for me, Harry Potter is modern fantasy.
Yeah, urban fantasy.
Or urban fantasy.
Okay.
And that's not really what I'm into, It's like, I also think that because I grew up reading like Piers Anthony and I think Anne Price is her name, just fantasy that was more grounded in like, just like this gritty sense of survival while using magic and swords to keep yourself alive.
It'd be like The Witcher?
I do like, yeah, exactly. I do like The
okay.
Witcher. I feel like The Witcher is fantasy, even though you could say The Witcher doesn't really use a lot of magic. I feel like The Witcher is based in this like old folklore, which I really, really like, and when you start getting into like Tolkien, where you have, elves and dwarves are these like really specific characters, it's still obviously fantasy, and I love that stuff in books and stuff, but in movies, I don't feel like it's ever really done that well. And I feel like there isn't a whole lot. Like if you search for fantasy movies, there's nothing. It's like you've got Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. That's it. There were a couple bad Warcraft movies. There's been some other stuff that like tried to do fantasy, and it's just like, it's not done very well. The Witcher does fantasy pretty well. I like it just because it's more gritty. But Harry Potter always felt too, young adult fantasy for me. It just seems, I know that there's a couple people who die and that there's some, horrible tragedies that happen. And I'm really just defending myself from the hordes of Harry Potter fans. But it just seems so childish to me, the whole thing. It's I can't get into it. And I've read, I think I read 5 of the books, and I don't know. It never really got me.
I can say, just to save some of our listeners. No, I'm just kidding. I love Harry Potter and I've read all the books, but I see what you're saying, because that experience of Harry Potter was, oh my God, if I was a kid, I totally put myself in, when I was little, oh my God, if there would have been a Diagon Alley, if there would have been this. And so really got into all of that, thinking about when I was a kid, how absolutely cool this would be. So I could totally see what you're saying.
Yeah. And it just feels really, I think right now in Disney World, there's like this whole Harry Potter Disney World park where you can go to Diagon Alley and all of these things. And it just, the whole thing for me feels really Disney Channel, just like this is for children, which is fine.
My inner child wants to go to that freaking park so bad.
Yeah, I want to go too. I want to go really bad.
I'll dress like a witch. And
But yeah, my favorite genre of book is definitely fantasy, because there's just so much to pull from, There's so many good fantasy books out there that I love.
What's one of your favorite fantasy books?
Well, we were just talking about Patrick Rothfuss wrote Name of the Wind. I really like that book. I'm not crazy about the sequel, but I do really like The Name of the Wind. It's just really well written, just beautifully written, and has a lot of really cool characters. Let's see. I really like, I would say I really like the old, like Conan the Barbarian books. they're hard to read, but they have a lot of really cool aspects to them that I like. And then I've read all of the R.A. Salvatore, not all, but I've read a lot of the R.A. Salvatore Drizzt fantasy. In his series, he has like a 50-book series that follows a character that I really am in love with. And so I like his writing also.
Have you ever read, I don't know if this would fall under fantasy, I'm thinking so, because it's magic, Leigh Bardugo's The Ninth House? Loved that book. So when it started, I was like, oh, is this going to be like Harry Potter for adults? I don't know about this. Because I was so in the Harry Potter, thinking about Harry Potter, so anything with wands or magic or anything like that. I was so obsessed. By the end of it, I had it on Kindle. This is what I do when I really like someone's books. I buy it on every platform, Kindle, Audible, physical book. And then I shared it everywhere. My daughter's going to read it now and I can't wait. She's supposed to come out with, a follow-up book, a sequel to it. And it's really, really good. I think you might hate it. I really liked it.
I'll try it. Yeah, I'll try anything.
Felicia, what have you been watching, listening to?
I have only done a couple things because I have been writing more. So that's a good girl, but not as much as I should. Ted Lasso. I finished it. We are so fucking obsessed.
Oh, yeah.
There's just something, it leaves me, though I notice after I watch it, I have kind of a sadness, and I was trying to work through it. Like, what is it? I think it may just be, maybe it's just this emotional response to, bad people getting their comeuppance, not great people learning and growing, good people winning, like romance. It's like, it's so satisfying. It's just such a great show. I want to be just like Ted. He's so cool. And I love it. I absolutely love that show. We finished it. We're very excited. That's going to be another one where when the next season comes out, boom, we're going to be right on that. We'll be watching it right away. And then the other
Us
thing.
too. I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, just to interrupt before you go on. But I feel that same sadness being done with it. And I think maybe it's due to, I don't know what you kind of decided for yourself, but I think it's due to the fact that like, sometimes real life doesn't feel that way, but you want it to,
Yeah.
You're like what you were saying. It's so satisfying, and watching people like be good role models for each other and watching them learn and grow and be better people. Like that's very satisfying. And then you come back to reality a little bit and you're like, I mean, I'm not saying that it can't be that way. And I also feel myself aspiring to be like Ted. Like, what would Ted do in this situation?
Totally. I want to make a bracelet.
Yeah.
What would Ted do? I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, actually, because I was thinking a lot, because I think way too much. And I was thinking a lot about it. I'm feeling fine. I watch a show. I love it. And then afterwards, I feel a little bit sad, a little bit down. And that was one of the things I thought of. I'm wondering if it's because there's not a lot of that really in the world, which then I go down to, that's not really fair.
Or at least it feels that way.
Yeah, because what I consume is a lot of negative stuff, like horror movies, true crime, horror novels. I'm writing a horror book. So I consume that content constantly. So maybe the world is really like that. And I just need to find that. I think that's what it is.
Well, and news, like news is all bad.
I hate news.
News is poison.
Okay, so I do not watch the news. People might hate me for this, but I don't care. I don't watch it. It bums me out. So Steve will tell me when something real important happens, and then we'll talk about it. But I just don't want to be inundated with all the shit. Just totally important shit.
That's true. I do.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
No, I want to hear.
I was going to say, I do feel like the news is good when there's big things that happen, and I feel like I miss out on some of those things. For a long time, I looked at Reddit just daily, and now I try really hard just not to look at it ever, because some of it's good, but a lot of it's bad, and the comments are just toxic. And so I try to just keep myself out of that whole sphere. But like every once in a while, I'll check, like what was the top thing this month that happened, and it's like, oh, I didn't even hear about that, and it's like, so it'd be good to have somebody that's like, hey, here's a big thing that happened that actually you should care about, because. But it sucks because if you subscribe, all of a sudden you're just like blasted at
Yeah, Steve is really good at that because he consumes a lot of content. He knows a lot of stuff because he's just like always watching and learning. But it doesn't affect him. It affects him like he has a voice and he has an opinion, and but it doesn't affect him like I get bummed. I feel like shit. Yeah, so he'll tell me the top stories, and that's ideal. And that you bring up a really good point. The news, social media, even just that. So even if you've curated your feed to show you things that you want to see, God forbid, don't look at the comments because you're just going to get a bunch more of that. The world is shit type of feeling if you do that. And then last night we binged 4 episodes. It's called Candy on Hulu.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We were looking at that.
Yeah, we were thinking about starting it.
Jessica Biel is great in that. Another true crime thing. I know. It's just I'm drawn to it, but she does a really good job and pretty addicted. Watched 4 episodes last night.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
We have solely been watching Stranger Things. That's it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we finished it. It was really good. Well, we finished up to the mid-season finale.
Yeah.
And it was really, really, really good.
So good. Like, we're sad now that we can't watch more of it. So go do it.
Okay. Yeah, everybody go do it. I've only seen like 3 episodes.
Total?
It was one of those things, not because it wasn't good. This always happens. I start it with my daughters, one of them, and then they're not around. And so every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, I can't watch that. And then it drops off.
Yeah. Mm. Okay. Are we ready?
Yeah,
I've been ready.
Jade is super ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, let's get into it finally. So again, we're talking about Pandorum from 2009. That was the year we both graduated, right?
So fine.
09. Yep.
Wow. High school?
Yeah.
Nice.
So the director is Christian Alvart, who's a German director that has literally done nothing else that I recognize at all. So I didn't write down any other things. For cast, we've got Dennis Quaid, who plays Peyton, Ben Foster, who plays Bauer, Cam Gigandet, I'm not sure how you say his name, plays Giallo. Oof, this one's going to be tough. Ant Trow plays Nadia. I don't know if I said that right. Kung Lee plays Man, or Man, probably. Man would be a little too on the nose, I think. Eddie Rouse plays Leland. Norman Reedus plays Shepard. And Andre Henneke plays Hunter Leader. Oh, I should have just deleted him. Not important. Okay. I tried to take out the cast that doesn't matter, but I actually did the research for this one before we watched the movie. So I was like, I can't remember who's important. Okay. Rotten Tomatoes gives this a 30%. 82% of Google users liked this movie, and Letterboxd gave it a 3 out of 5. Jay, don't peek at my notes. Okay, I see you peeking at the notes. Don't do it.
If you're not watching YouTube, everybody, Jade's now just staring off camera at the wall.
Okay, the budget was $33 million. Box office, $20 million. Bad. It did bad.
Oh, yeah, it did.
Flopped.
Wow, why? Do we know what else was up against it or anything? I know that's a curveball that we don't ever research, but I was curious.
Yeah, I don't. I think I remember reading that it was number 4 or 6 or something on the box office list. So I think maybe it just didn't get a lot of hype, is my guess, based on that tiny nugget that I read. Because you know how people will go see a movie and then they'll be like, oh my God, you got to go see this movie.
Yes.
And so it carries it through several weekends. I just wonder if this was not that. But now people fucking talk about this movie a lot. It is considered a cult classic at this point. So.
Ah, okay.
All right, turn back now if you don't want this movie ruined. And I highly recommend, actually, that if you want to watch this movie at all, you should not listen to us talk about it before you watch it. This is one of those that you should just go in blind, watch it, come back. That is all. Okay, Corporal Bauer awakes from hypersleep aboard a ship named Elysium. The ship isn't working correctly and he's alone, which isn't right since the previous flight crew should have been there to transition from. He doesn't remember a lot about his life or getting on the ship, which is a side effect of hypersleep. Eventually, Lieutenant Peyton also wakes up and the two of them begin working on a way to fix the ship. Bauer leaves the room they're in through the walls of the ship since the door won't open. He finds a dead member of the flight crew, a woman who almost kills him, and terrifying monsters that are also trying to kill him. Narrowly escaping, he has Peyton chart him a course to the reactor. He runs back into the woman from earlier and a warrior-like man who doesn't speak English. He talks them down from killing each other and tells them about his goal to fix the ship. He learns the woman Nadia is part of the Environmental Science Division and Mon is from the Agricultural Division. On their way there, they realize these monsters on the ship hunt in the personnel part of the ship. So when people wake up out of hypersleep, they're immediately pulled out and eaten. Then they encounter Leland, a chef who's been awake for a long time. He tells them that one of the first flight crews received a transmission from Earth telling them they were the last humans alive. This gave one of the members, Gallo, Pandorum, a condition that causes psychosis due to the stresses of space flight. He killed the rest of his flight crew, played God for a while, and then went back to hypersleep. At the same time that the reactor crew is learning this, Peyton finds Gallo alone and hysterical in part of the ship. He says that the rest of the crew had Pandorum and he had to kill them. Back to the reactor crew. Nadia tells Bauer that she thinks the monsters are people who adapted to the ship with the help of an accelerant they were all given to adapt to life on Tanis, where they're headed. And that they've actually been alive a lot longer than they even realize. Bauer convinces Leland to help them reach the reactor because if they don't, the ship will die in an hour. While they're on the way to the reactor, Peyton and Gallo are arguing about what to do about the ship. Gallo gets increasingly agitated and Peyton locks him back in a hypersleep chamber so he can't evacuate them. But we realize that Gallo and Peyton are actually one person. Gallo represents the younger version of him who killed the rest of the crew. As soon as Bauer fixes the reactor, Peyton can access the bridge, which is basically the cockpit of a ship. Jade and I argued about this this morning. He said I can't call it a cockpit, but just to avoid confusion. I kept getting confused while I was watching the movie because they kept calling it the bridge. I don't know.
It's her first sci-fi. Just go easy on her.
No, it is not. I mean, it is the first time I think that I've heard somebody call it the bridge. So
I think I've heard it from Star Trek. Right? Don't they call it the bridge?
Yeah. That's what Jade said. Okay, I never watched Star Trek. Okay.
Yeah, we know.
Okay. The rest of the crew catches up with Peyton on the bridge. When Nadia and Bauer catch up to him, he opens the shutters, revealing complete darkness. No stars or anything. This pushes Bauer further into Pandorum and he starts hallucinating. But then they see a bioluminescent creature swimming above them and realize they're underwater. The ship landed on Tanis 800 years ago, and 923 years have passed since they left Earth. The glass starts to crack after Bauer fires a weapon at a hallucination. They run to the pods and eject themselves. Because of the breach, the ship ejects all of the pods. Bauer and Nadia jettison towards the surface of the water, and the final scene shows the human population of Tanis at 1200-ish. The end.
Awesome.
That was good.
Yeah.
That's the whole movie.
It was hard to condense. This is a journey of a fucking movie. It was like,
yeah, and it's back and forth and back and forth. So you did a good job.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to start?
I just want to know if you guys liked it or not.
Should we start with Felicia?
And then is it done? And then are you done with the episode?
And that's it. I'm out of here.
He's gonna walk away.
Well, yeah. And I can walk away because Tawny made me wear pants.
Okay, so I liked this movie. I did. There was two things, three things. For some reason, I felt very nostalgic with the movie. That kind of nostalgia, but I've never seen it. So I think it's just I started looking. I really like sci-fi movies. There's a lot of different movies when I was growing up that I watched that dealt with space and aliens, and I love aliens. So all this different this theme in general. I think the actors too, like Dennis Quaid, all of this stuff made it feel really nostalgic for me. So I felt like I'd seen it before, but I hadn't. Claustrophobia is one thing that is real, very real within me and freaks me out. And there was a lot of that in this movie. Moments of small spaces, or even just in general. For example, when they opened it up and there were no stars and they're like, "Where did you take us?" I immediately, like, my chest got tight, my heart, my lungs got tight, like, oh my God, because they're on this gigantic ship, but where? They're on the ship. This is it. This is all they have. So this claustrophobic feeling was very frightening. And I have to say, to me, those monsters were very well done. They were super fucking scary. I wrote at the very top, fucking hell, those monsters are scary. That's what I wrote. I thought they did such an excellent job. And that's something that's really, it's really hard to do sometimes. Like, where you're really nervous, you don't see it, but it's coming. You can build that suspense and that tension. And then you see it, it better be fucking good, or you've just like ruined everything. And I thought those monsters were scary. The way they moved, the way they looked, it was really, really well done. And I thought the acting was good too. There weren't any points where I was like, come the fuck on. I didn't. There's only one time when we're first introduced to the woman. She was irritating me because she just kept fucking jumping on everybody. And when they were in like those storage containers and he's just looking around, and then she jumps on him and flings him around. Fucking leave him alone. He's just walking around the ship. He's obviously not one of those beasts. I actually wrote, this woman, I don't like her, because it was bothering me that she just was flying off the handle, fucking all over the place. But then I crossed that out and I said, at first, I didn't like her, but I ended up liking her. I ended up liking her a lot as well. So that's my initial thoughts.
Jade, do you want to go next? I mean, obviously we know you love it.
Yeah, I like this movie. It's good. Sorry, I'm bumping everything.
He leaned in to talk
Podcast
and everything started to fall.
It's my first time. I agree with what you said about the woman. I had that thought too in the storage container where she swings down and kicks him in the face. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, what? Why? Why are you kicking this guy in the face? And then I wondered, something that I wondered I've only wondered this time. I've seen this movie a lot, is when he is disabling that trap. I'm like, who is setting these traps?
I wondered about this too.
I wondered, like, is it her? Is she setting these traps? And that's why she's trying to like rough these guys up, to like string them up and use them as decoys so that she can move around the ship. I don't know. I never really even fully understood the purpose of the traps. Are they decoys, or are they to feed them? Are they to like, or are these people setting the traps? Because they might be setting the traps too.
I'd wonder, now that you bring that up, that's very curious, because then maybe that's why she's so, upset, or maybe he's getting too close to where she lives with all of those specimens. The beasts definitely know the traps are there, because when he got caught that one time and he flung over, they went right over and pulled him up. Remember?
And I thought that too when he fell off the big cliff, and then they were there to pull him up. But I remember when he was disabling the trap, he said it's booby trapped. But I couldn't tell if he meant this guy is already caught in the booby trap, or this guy is the booby trap. Like, I wonder if the beasts were using these traps to catch more humans that would come and try to save them. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Couldn't figure it out. It could be a couple different things, I think. But anyway, I love the movie. I think my favorite line from the movie that I think sums this movie up really well, that you mentioned with your, the constant claustrophobia, is when they're talking about Pandorum, when Bauer first brings up Pandorum after he sees his handshake. And what's the other guy's name? Peyton is like, why would you bring up Pandorum? And Bauer, they start talking about the Eden Project and how they evacuated the entire ship. And he was like, it would just suck to wake up in a coffin. And Peyton is like, how do you know we haven't? And I feel like that like kind of sums up the whole movie. I was like, oh, did we just wake up in a coffin? Like, and we have nowhere to go and we're totally screwed. And then when it reveals the blackness later, when they open those shutters, it's just like, oh man, these guys are screwed. Like, they have nowhere to go. Like, this ship is where they're going to die. And I really like that whole feeling of like, there's a lot of things I like about this movie that I'll probably bring up, but That's probably my favorite, is just that it's like everywhere is so solid, and they show him beating on the glass of Peyton's cage in the beginning. They show Peyton beating on the door. Like, I feel like that's a theme in this movie where all of their boundaries are just like, you'll never break through this, you know? And so they're kind of like rats in a maze. And I really like that feeling of just like being herded through this solid, you know, labyrinth that they might not ever escape. It's just a cool concept.
Yeah.
For me, overall, I also love this movie. I was gonna try to do like a fake out thing. Like, I was thinking about trying to be like,
you're faking me out. I'm like, oh shit.
I was gonna try to be like, I hate this movie, but Jade knows. He knows. We haven't talked about it like when we watched the movie together. We tried not to talk about it at all, and so we haven't, you know. But I'm like, he knows I like this movie. He made me watch it the first time. So
I did. When I heard that she hadn't seen Pandorum, I think I made her watch it like that day.
It was pretty immediate. Yeah. And I also, there's so many aspects I like about this. I like that it's so fucking ambitious. It's a really ambitious movie because it has like an insanely huge backstory, and like the plot is a little complicated. Like, there's a lot of things happening, but I don't hate it. Like, I was watching this time and I was thinking, oh, is this going to get really muddy? You know, the second watch? Because the first watch, you're just like, well, I feel like you're enamored. You're going through this discovery process with the main characters, which is, I think, really a cool aspect of it. But you're like, I don't know, just everything that happens it just feels so big. It feels like an epic sci-fi horror to me. And I like that. I like epic type stories. It kind of reminds me of, like, as I'm talking about this, it reminds me a little bit of Waterworld, I guess, in that way.
Yes.
That there's just like, they've like created this entire world and ecosystem of this like ship, and you just don't know. Like, you go through the movie and things are revealed to you piece by piece, and like, that's really interesting to me. It's so ambitious. And I actually was like looking up, I'm gonna look up here in a second whenever I get another chance. I think even though the budget was like 30 million, I'm pretty sure that's still fucking small of a budget. Because I always think about this movie as a low budget movie. And I think it is relatively low. Because 10 million is like a pretty small budget. It's like, so, you know, 3 times that. I feel like the scale of what they did, the set pieces are like crazy. But anyway, back to just like the overall story. I love it. And I love the reveal. Like, I remember shitting my pants, just like, oh my God, they're underwater. And then they like come to the top. I remember like watching the last few minutes of this movie with my mouth open. Like, I just was like, wow, this is crazy. So
yeah, that moment where it's like they've been there the whole time. You're just like, oh my God, that's cool. It's a cool
I think
movie.
I went, oh shit, they fucking been there the whole time. And then you have that, you know, that satisfaction that some people did make it.
Yeah.
And that there's that hope, you know, that was really nice to have too at the end of all of this.
Yeah. And kind of back to what Tawny was saying, I really like the ecosystem that they created. And then when they reveal that, like, you know, these monsters have been evolving on a rapid scale due to this, I don't know, evolution syrup that they put in their veins. I don't know how they explained it, but they were basically like, you know, these people evolve, you know, more quickly to the environment that they're exposed to, which makes sense that a bunch of colonists would have that. It's actually really, really smart, and it's a really cool mechanic to introduce. But it's awesome to think that these things have been evolving for 800 years, you know, ever since they were first shoved into these, you know, or brought out of their pods for this guy's like weird experiments, and just watching them kind of do their thing, which is a whole nother conversation of him just like playing God. But like, I love that there has been 900 years of untold history on this ship of people waking up, probably surviving as best they can, maybe carving out a little life for themselves, but ultimately probably being eaten and horribly murdered. It's just cool. It opens up a whole universe of stories that you could have on this ship throughout the, you know, hundreds of years. Like, that's such a long time, you know, and it's crazy that that's just been happening. And the fact that the ship is finally dying, and it probably had some type of subroutine that awoke the mechanical engineer that was able to fix it. Also, kind of, you're seeing this whole, this humanistic element given to this ship itself. That's like, and they talk about in the movie, where he's like, oh yeah, she has been a little moody lately. It's like these people think of this ship as they're almost like their Mother Earth, and like it awoke its savior to come and like fix her before, things got really bad. I just think there's so many cool like themes in this movie that I'm not probably explaining in a logical order, but I love it.
No, I thought that was really good. I like how you mentioned that hundreds of years. Yeah, because maybe there was even people that did happen to survive, but eventually died of old age.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That ship is gigantic.
Yeah,
I mean, they could be anywhere. No, that's
yeah.
Good.
No, yeah, the ship was so huge, and even when they show the part of it sticking out of the water, you're like, just that alone is like massive, like so big that like you've got this cook who's managed to carve out a life for himself, catching and eating people. Like he could have been doing that for 30 years, and you've got probably pockets of these people all over the ship that it would honestly be cool to even see it go further and have these people be rescued and added to this like new colony and have all kinds of psychos that have just been surviving, try to integrate into this society of, freshly awoken people. There's just so many cool things you could do with this.
Yeah, I guess that's what I mean too when I say ambitious. Like the scale of the movie and the story and like the sets is fucking huge. Like we're talking about millions and millions of light years or something like away. They're in like a totally different part of space. They're not even on. They're on the planet, but they're underwater. The actual thing is huge. The span of time is fucking huge. But I actually have something on that. So this was the first film in a proposed trilogy. So I imagine that they wanted to like explore more, but the sequels will never see the light of day just because it was a flop.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be so cool. When we first see the ship outside, or we're outside of the ship, we could see the whole thing. It's like, where did they even build this on Earth? Where the hell did they keep this thing?
Yeah.
Building this thing. It's massive. I really like all of this because there's probably tons of people that died when the ship, when it got breached because they weren't in pods or they weren't in those ejector pods, right? Maybe they're living in different areas of the ship and
yeah,
they couldn't get out. So I wanted to ask you, this is true. So I felt like there was a couple things thrown out about what those beasts were. She was like, maybe they're humans that were given this stuff. And then somebody else, I don't remember, said something else. That was one thing. I would love to watch it again because some stuff happens so fast. Like it's happening so fast and it was hard to keep track. So those were humans that they woke, or the main guy woke up and gave them, it was like an experiment. And then he just let them roam around and then they evolved.
So I think the idea is that this guy heard, you're all that's left of humanity. And whether it was due to Pandorum or just his own, weird fantasy psychosis, he realized, there's no more law, there's no more order, there's no more God even. Like I can entirely start over. And I have all of these people kind of at my mercy. All I have to do is kill my 2 crew members, which he did. And then I think he did all kinds of horrible experiments. They show him waking up a woman, and then they show, I can't remember exactly what they show, but they talk about him, opening huge amounts of pods, hundreds and hundreds of people, and just kind of, watching them fend for themselves until they finally have to start eating each other. And I think he just did all kinds of weird, crazy experiments in different areas of the ship, which I think is what ultimately tipped Bauer off that he wasn't who he said he was. Because Bauer saw, what was his name again? Peyton. He saw Peyton's wife's pod, and I think he realized, oh, that's not Peyton, because his name was Gallo.
Right. How would that have tipped him off?
Well, remember when he comes back and he's like, you're not Peyton. He's like, I know who you are. Like, I think when he saw Peyton's wife's chamber, I think he made a face and it looked like he had a recollection of like, oh my God, I know who he is. Like that's not like it was just he just
remembered.
Yeah, he just remembered that like who Peyton actually was, and that this older guy Gallo was not actually Peyton.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, because he actually said that he remembered.
Yeah.
And that was one point where I was like, what did I miss?
Yeah, he remembered who Peyton actually was. And so anyway, I think this guy Gallo did all these experiments and then left these people to just kind of fend for themselves while he went back into cryosleep after just, I don't know, getting bored, I guess. And then those people, the hundreds that had been let out, or thousands, I don't know, I think there were 16,000 total. So he had done all kinds of crazy stuff with thousands and thousands of people. And that once they were left to just evolve with the ship and evolve in a way that, you know, made them hunters of the ship, they all just gathered around the reactor, probably because it was a warm place, and that's where they had their like breeding ground, and just kind of, you know, evolved and fed from there on the people that ended up waking up on their own.
Yeah, I got the impression that wasn't necessarily something that he had done, but just something that had happened as a result of the accelerant. And so those things, had been alive for a very long time and had adapted to life on the ship rather than life on Tanis. And then they bred over like years and years and years.
Hundreds of years, yeah.
Yeah, which like one of the things that I was curious about, I didn't get a chance to look up. I think like this idea of evolution, people get mad. Like I've read in comments and stuff, people get mad because they're like, oh, it would take like millions and millions of years. But I think they solve that problem by like the accelerant thing. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, with the accelerant, and like if you had an accelerant, I mean, not scientifically speaking, because this is all made up fantasy
right,
science,
obviously.
But if you had an accelerant and were breeding through generations, you know, like you would start evolving to suit your surroundings. And so we just don't know what that means, you know, the accelerant, like it could.
Yeah, I think you can imagine a person who makes the comments. Like, how do we know? You're on a ship in deep space with an accelerant, no sun, no nothing, feasting off of humans and God knows what else you're feasting off of.
To be fair, those comments that I've seen are not in relation to this movie, just in relation to like evolution in general.
But like, how would you know? How would you know? There's, you know, been like really terrible changes just for people who have been held captive with no sunlight for years and years and years and years.
Yeah,
and like
true.
Kind of how they, you know, evolve. So
yeah,
they did good with their makeup. You know, that smoky eye and stuff they got going on. That was good.
That was good. Yeah. I think it's kind of I think Tawny and I said this earlier too. This movie is kind of like The Descent in space.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes. Fuck yes. Yes.
Yeah. Because The Descent is the same concept. It's like these people, you know, millions of years ago just stayed in these caves, and they've just been dragging things down into their caves forever, and they've evolved to be these like hunters in the darkness. And that's why they don't have vision and stuff. So I think it's the same concept.
I thought of The Descent when I saw The Beast for the first time. And I liked those beasts too in The Descent. So
this was after The Descent, I believe, too.
Yeah, it was.
Did I look it up?
Yeah, you looked it up.
Okay. Yeah, so I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if they took a lot of inspiration from, because they do look similar. It's like kind of the same idea. And I did say this to Jade. I tried really hard not to make comments, but I did make comments. I said, I love this trope of like humans getting stuck somewhere. I mean, I don't know how many other times I've seen it. I feel like it's just these two movies, but it made me really like them. And I just like it a lot, where it's like they get stuck and they evolve, and now they're like totally different creatures. Because I like on the journey too in this movie, you think that they are probably aliens, right?
Yeah,
the first
totally.
time you watch it.
You think they breached the ship and they're aliens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Until way later when they're like, I think that's us and we've been here. They've been awake way longer than we realize. Like, I like it.
Yeah. And you kind of piece it together, you know, just a little bit at a time. I feel like they do a really good job. Because when she first says that, you're like, what does that mean? Because I think all she says is, I think these were already on the ship.
Yeah.
And and then she's like, I think that, you know, we've been here a lot longer than we think. And you kind of start getting the idea of like, okay, what does that mean? You know, and then when they introduce the cook and he starts talking about how, you know, it's been a really long time, you're like, oh, damn, this movie just makes you think after you've watched it. I feel like you piece it all together, and you just like sit there and you're like, oh wow, like damn, that's a really cool concept that wasn't just like beat over my head, because there's so many movies, especially now, I feel like they're so worried you're not going to get the point of what they're trying to say, that they just like are like, just slapping you across the face with the answer. And it's like, I'm not an idiot, like most people understand stuff. And if they don't, they can talk to their friends about it and
listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Get the answers.
Yeah. I liked that this movie had a lot of terrifying moments, like even little quick moments where they showed the people waking up from the cryo sleep, but all the beasts are just right there.
I don't know what.
Sorry, I was trying to get him to lean in.
She couldn't see enough of my chest, I think.
I'm just on the very edge of the frame, that's all. I'm sorry, Felicia.
For everybody, I'm talking, and all of a sudden Jade's taking off his shirt. I'm like, what's happening? Where they were waking up and the beasts were just there, ready to tear them apart. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're awake, you're conscious, you don't know where you are, you don't know who you are, but there's these things that eat you, you're done. Oh, God.
Dead.
That's terrifying.
Terrible.
Agreed.
Yeah. I also thought a really scary part of this was when they were being jettisoned and the force was like forcing them down into the water, and then their pod started to fill up with water, and they're just like in this tiny little space, barely big enough for two people, and they're both trying to breathe, and he's just like, I'm just going to let her have that. Hopefully we come up somewhere, like, I don't know. That was stressful for me. It just seemed like, I don't know.
I think drowning is very in line with claustrophobia, right?
Yeah.
Because the space is, filling up. That was terrifying. I did see one thing. This was probably something stupid that I shouldn't have focused on. But when the lady was showing all the species that they brought from Earth that she's trying to keep safe because it's like a Noah's Ark, the first thing I thought of, y'all are just going to go to this planet and fuck it up. Because what if all of these species become super invasive species to this particular planet and just destroys it? We have that here, where just like one animal is brought in by, I don't know, people on ships or an illness or whatever, and it fucks everything up on that island. And now
That's a good point.
We're like, oh no, we need all this stuff from Earth because this, and we're gonna. I mean, I get it. They're probably like, oh, we want some like potatoes and things like that, so we know for sure we could grow food that we could eat. I don't know, but like we're gonna bring all of this shit from Earth to this planet and probably destroy it just because you are getting samples and saying, oh, they have air or they have things that are living. That plant that was living that they had a picture of was not like anything. Well, I shouldn't say anything on Earth because there's like those freaking nature shows on Netflix blow my mind with what's actually on Earth. So I guess, I don't know. I just thought.
No, it's a good, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that at all. Like, and also, at some point, they're going to have to go back and dive down for all of this stuff to get to it, like, and I feel like the whole breach thing that was like, it's breached. Like, I feel like the ship would have some type of, airlocks, to like be like, oh, there's water rapidly filling this. We'll just close off the bridge, like, I feel like most of the ship would still have probably maintained itself, but I don't know. It did have to evacuate all the people. So.
Yeah, it did make it seem like that wasn't the case because it evacuated the people. Or maybe the ship was smart enough to know that it's underwater because there was a water breach. We need to get the humans out of here. But
the other thing is it felt like it was at the end of its life. Like the ship, I mean, she mentions early on, like this ship was built to last for our children's children. But I felt sort of like, the journey itself was supposed to take 123 years, and it's been 923. Like, at some point, it's going to, go down. Like, something has to fail. And so I wonder if maybe that was it. Is that also, I mean, I'm really, like, reaching here to make it make sense, but it's like maybe there was some kind of fail-safe that's, like, at the end of life, eject all life.
It was probably better for them that all of those species that they were going to bring didn't make it, even though she spent a lot of time protecting them. What else is she going to do for all those years?
Well, yeah.
I mean, it gave her a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
I have something on that. So the bug, Ben Foster insisted on eating live insects instead of using special effects for dead ones. So he actually ate that.
Interesting.
He should date that. A Sami character.
What's that?
I think there's a very different level. Well, I guess not. If you're the one throwing up, it's probably not as bad. Just, well, we won't say anything more about it because...
Well, it's not really...
We don't...
Yeah, we'll tell you later. If anybody else wants to know, go listen to our audition episode and we'll tell Jade later.
Oh, okay.
That's gross. I always think about this is random, and I apologize because it's not like an important piece of discussing the movie. But I always wonder in movies, would I do it? If they wanted me to be in this movie and they were like, but you need to eat this cockroach, or it was a cricket, or you need to grasshopper. You need to put this spider in your mouth and let it crawl out, or I don't know.
I guess it depends on how much you're getting paid. But most of these people make the decision themselves. You know, it's like
I insist that this
I'm a method actor.
This cricket needs to be alive when I eat it. This is so important to the movie. It has to be alive. Nah, I'd be getting the gummy cricket. I would not be insisting on a real one. Jade, do you have something to say about that?
I've actually eaten a live grasshopper.
Oh, yeah, gross.
We went backpacking when I was a kid as a school trip, and we ate all kinds of bugs, just daring each other. We went on this bug eating binge where we were just like, what could we eat? What's the grossest thing? Grasshoppers don't actually taste that bad. They just taste like dirt and plants.
Oh, Jesus. So there's a lot of people that eat bugs, and I think that's great. You know, I can't wrap my mind around it.
Good for you, not for me.
I had this little boy that always wanted to impress me when I was in the first grade, and he would eat ants. Oh. And it was disgusting and did not impress me. For all the little boys out there that's listening.
Was it because it was just an ant and wasn't something bigger, or was it because it was
a carpenter ant? And so they're like fat, and
yeah, they are big.
I don't know. He used to pull my hair too, but
he was totally into you.
Yeah, right.
I still pull Tawny's hair. Oh, sorry. Oh. That's probably not appropriate.
I love it. Oh shit.
Okay, so I have just some random trivia for you. So the name of the ship Elysium means a place or state of perfect happiness. In Greek mythology, the preferred heroes of the gods were transported to Elysium, their final resting place at the ends of the earth. This is a figurative interpretation of the journey to Tanis, the Earth-like planet considered to be paradise for the chosen.
That's probably why they named that other movie Elysium too. There's a movie called that with Matt Damon. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I don't think we've seen that.
Oh, I remember liking it.
Okay.
It's not a horror movie though, but.
Good to know. Also, this movie was the 6th film released in select D-Box enabled cinemas. So I guess that's where it shakes. Oh. There's haptic technology to make you feel more like you're in there. And they said it adds to the movie's plot and underlying themes of fear, terror, and explosive action by offering realistic sensations during most of the film's action scenes. I feel like that would be fucking sweet. Well, I think you said you hadn't seen this in theaters, right?
No.
I definitely did not. Okay. That would have been cool.
It would have been cool to see in theaters for sure.
I would have.
Especially that.
That would have been real cool. My kids have Animal Crossing, and I logged in to try it out. And there's just this little thing where the little raccoon guy sends you something and then your joystick vibrates because you've received it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So I'm just saying that you guys are gamers. So I know Sims doesn't have any type of haptics or anything. You guys are gamers. So you probably experience this with your joysticks and stuff. So I'm just saying, I think it would be cool.
We call them controllers.
Controllers, I'm sorry. I did grow up on, I had the Space Invaders and stuff like that. And we had joysticks. Yeah. Controllers. I have played the Xbox before, but
okay.
Okay. You
sure.
Don't believe me? Yeah, sure. Oh god, that's funny.
So Pandorum, even I thought this was interesting because it feels like it really is a thing, but it's just a made up condition, Pandorum.
Okay. Is that it?
That's all.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
So that was a hard stop. I got confused. I thought I made noise or something. I could say it's like anxiety, I would think. I'm sure I totally had Pandorum watching it. I could, as soon as he was like, what do you see? What do you see? What do you see? And she's like, where are the stars? I started to go, oh, fuck. Oh my God. Like everything. And I thought they did this really well. Everything closing in on him, on our savior, our lead guy. Just how everything was like zipping around and then like this focus and then, it was so, it just puts you in that place. And then when he shot the thing and there wasn't a monster, I'm like, oh my God, there are no monsters. What the fuck? And then he was like, hey, do you see that? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, there are monsters, just not in that room at that time. Fucking crazy. I was right along with him. I would legit have Pandorum because I had it just the other night watching the movie. For a minute, I had it.
I do have just something on that, like the ending. So from an interview, writer Travis Malloy wrote the script without knowing where it would go or how it would end. He decided not to do a preliminary outline, not knowing where it would go, and tried to go for more of an organic, creative process. When he reached the ending where Nadia finally looks out the cockpit window, somebody else wrote cockpit, see?
They don't know.
Malloy literally stopped mid-sentence, not knowing what she would see or how the story would end. He took his dog for a walk, looked up at the night sky, trying to imagine something different and unexpected. As his dog drank from a puddle, he realized the seemingly polar opposite of deep space was being underwater, so he went home and wrote the ending that exists.
Oh,
wow.
I just got cold chills. That is fucking awesome.
That's crazy, actually, that such a like, just, it's like a mind-blowing ending wasn't something that was planned from the beginning.
Yeah.
Is really cool.
It's really cool and really inspiring. And just applaud him for that. That's very, very awesome.
And his dog.
His dog. Yeah, I'm sorry. And the night sky, credit. I guess, too. Mm-hmm. I guess Mother Earth. We got to thank her, too.
Always.
So about the story also, this Travis Malloy, he had written the preliminary script, which was actually set on a prison ship. The characters Nadia and Mon were inmates. Bauer was a non-prisoner who didn't trust anyone. The producers gave the script to director Kristen Alvart, who was shocked by the similarities to his own screenplay titled Nowhere. His dramatic story was about 4 astronauts aboard a settler ship who suffer from amnesia. Alvart decided they should weld the 2 screenplays together, and the producers and Malloy agreed. So it was a combination of both of their stories. I also should note, I didn't write anything about this down, but one of the producers is Paul W.S. Anderson, I think is his name. And he's the one who did all of the Resident Evil movies. He also directed Event Horizon, another similar sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah, I saw that one. I think
he read the script and was really impressed by it, and that's how they got financial backing. Originally, they were planning on Travis Malloy, the writer, was planning on this being a very, very, very low budget movie, and then they picked it up and ran with it, brought it to a studio. So
that's very cool. I'm glad they went the way with it that they did, and that it wasn't a prisoner ship.
Me too. Yeah, it's the concept is just golden.
Yeah.
With this movie.
I agree.
Yeah, I really like the survivor, we have to go and repopulate a place. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I feel like the amnesia in a story is always a little bit gimmicky for me. It's just okay, they can't remember, so they're going to learn while I learn as the audience. But I feel like in this case, with the hypersleep amnesia, it had a good reason for being there, and it worked really well, especially for both characters. You have this one character who can't remember his name or his relationship, but he knows everything about the reactor. I think that's a really cool concept. He's just no, I'm the engineer here. And then you have the other guy who also can't remember anything about himself, but for a totally different reason. It's because he is the bad guy. you have these two different amnesia stories being told, and they both work really well. And it's perfect. It's a perfect device that I think it just blows me away. That it's something I usually hate, but actually love about this.
Yeah, I like that too. And it's very believable because even just in nowadays living on Earth life, you could get knocked upside the head and forget or become disoriented for a minute, and then you regain back. So that would make total sense, especially for as long as they have been in that hypersleep, not thinking, not using, well, I mean, I don't know if they're thinking, but, not fully utilizing their brain and stuff and their senses. So that makes sense. I do have here too, the fucking hell, that beginning. See, I keep saying things like that because of Ted Lasso and the accents, but when he's pulling those tubes out of his arm and like that was great. It was disgusting.
It was really gross. It was grossing me out. I was like, the skin that he's like pulling off himself.
The way I got through that was I was like, that is just some type of like latex stuff they put to help preserve the body. Because
I think it's
disgusting.
I think it's supposed to be dead skin.
Yeah, I think so too.
Oh God. This reminds me of, I don't know what this movie is. I saw it when I was a little kid with my parents. Maybe they're werewolves or something. But all I remember is this person was looking in a mirror and their face was changing and they started to peel off their skin and then shove it in their mouth. That's all I remember.
What?
I don't even know what it fucking is, but there's like this memory because I saw it as a kid. Anybody know what it is? Let us know. But
yeah,
it's disgusting.
I want to know. That is
skin
weird.
Peeling. Okay.
Ugh.
Yeah. I think it's a werewolf. Sorry, I don't know how to say
That was really close.
I think it's a werewolf movie. Is something that's coming to me, but anyway. How do you say that word?
You were really close. Do you want to try again?
No, it's okay.
Werewolf. There you go.
Okay, werewolf. Okay.
Perfect.
Something that I thought was interesting, because I remember reading about this again from comments unrelated to this movie, but about like repopulating the Earth and how a lot of times I think in these sci-fi movies you see like two people survive and then they're supposed to repopulate the Earth and people are like, oh, you can't do that. And I remember being shocked at the amount of people that you would have to have. So I looked it back up. This is what I found. To avoid eroding evolutionary potential, which is the ability of a population to evolve to cope with future environmental changes, an effective population of at least 500 is required.
Wow.
So that's
surprising.
That's the high end. The low end is like 50. So there's like a 50/500 rule, which suggested that a minimum population size of 50 was necessary to combat inbreeding, but 500 individuals is needed to reduce what I just talked about. And it's, I guess, also called genetic drift.
500 like really fertile, healthy people.
Yeah, I think the 50 number is like 50 perfect specimens. Like what you're saying. Like there's
every time we have sex, I could pop out a baby. Like boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also no like probably, health issues or, like anything like that. So I think that's why the 500 is like gets everybody's bases covered. So in this movie, we have 1,200 people who survive. So that's enough.
That's more than enough.
Yeah, to repopulate.
That's more than enough. That's a really cool tidbit. And like in other movies where, even when you have like 20 people and they're like, oh, we made it to this new planet. And you think.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Like.
That's going to be some brother-sister stuff real quick.
Nasty. You're going to have someone that's going to be like all the men in one family, trying to make lots of babies.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. And so they made room for more than enough to make it believable. They got rid of the specimens to, we don't know for sure if they did, but have learn to live on this particular planet with the resources this planet has, the food this planet has. Thank God they had oxygen. Shit. Because when that thing opened and they just went, I was like, oh, you got lucky.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
He's like, take a deep breath. And I'm like, oh. at your own risk. But I mean, she had to. There's no other option.
One of my questions was, and I asked this out loud, and then Jade said, I'll tell you tomorrow. So before we knew that Gallo and Peyton were the same person, Gallo was like freaking out, trying to convince him to like get into escape pods and just like jettison themselves out. He's like, let's just get the fuck out of here. There's no hope, blah, 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 whatever. And I was like, why? So this is before we know that they're underwater. They probably assume they're still in space. I'm like, why the fuck would you jettison yourself out into space and give yourself like 3 more days to live than just die in the ship?
100%. They even say this. But then we'll let Jade say something. Sorry, Jade. Then I'll be quiet so you can say something.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready.
They make that comment exactly where let's go out into this little thing. Well, why would we do that? That's a suicide mission. Yeah, but at least we'll have like we'll have 3 days well, yeah, you have like 3 days on the ship. Or no, because it's going to explode in an hour. Okay, I would rather die in the ship in an hour than be in this coffin in space. God, that's just making me nervous right now.
I know.
In space for 3 more fucking days? That's like terrifying. And Jade, do you have an answer?
I just think it like you said, if you're going to die on the ship in the same amount of time, then yeah, you just die on the ship. But I think that's the whole point of like, it speaks to the survivability of human beings. Is it's like, no, we're going to survive as long as physically possible. If that means we jettison out and buy ourselves 3 more days, maybe in those 3 days something happens that is entirely unforeseen, but we are at all costs going to prolong our survivability, like as long as humanly possible.
I like that you said that, because at first I wasn't buying it, because I was like, you're in this coffin, you have nothing to eat or drink, you're peeing, pooping yourself, you can't move except like, just kind of like that. That sounds miserable. But the unforeseen that might happen.
Yeah, the hope
that something will happen. Maybe we'll land somewhere. Maybe, and if he would have went with it, it would have been great, because he would have actually been at the surface of the water.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Of course, we don't know that at the time.
No, neither does he.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a.
But that plays to that's a really good point about hope. Because if he would have just trusted himself, his crazy younger self, he would have made it out.
Well, and he would have saved more people too, because we don't know when he went into hypersleep. But if he would have done that, when there were still 15,000 people aboard, it would have saved everyone's lives. Maybe, I don't know. He may have had his psychotic break when they were still in space, is from what it seemed like. So, you don't know.
That was my assumption, is that they were still in space when he went back to sleep, because they were like the second flight crew. And what? How many years? Was it like 2 years each?
More than that, right?
Because they were 5. Bauer was part of 5, and they were supposed to be 8 years in, or something.
Oh yeah.
And so.
I don't remember the math on all that. I didn't keep track of all those dates.
Why wouldn't the navigation show them that they were on the island that he was looking at? All the fancy, light show stuff, you know what I'm talking about. They're not really screens, but it's all around them. Why wouldn't it say the navigation say like you are on this planet
where you were trying to go?
It might have said that on the bridge when they finally got there, if they had like booted up navigation. But I think what they were working with mostly was just that one terminal, which wasn't on the bridge. It might not have had navigation on it.
Oh, it was more like navigating within the ship. Like okay.
That's a good point, because that is where we learn on the bridge, on the screens, is where we learn how long it's been.
Yeah.
So maybe.
So they couldn't see how long it's been or anything. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
that seems like a big fail on behalf of the people who built the ship. That there's not more areas of the ship that will tell you GPS where you're at.
Yeah, nice going.
Yeah. Just this one little tiny compared to how big the ship is, part of the ship that lets everybody know where they're at.
Also seems to be the least protected part of the ship, because it can just get Cracked.
One little ding, and that glass breaks.
Yeah, maybe we need to have a backup navigation computer.
Yeah. Well, and it might have been the pressure too of being like at the bottom of the ocean. You know, I know there's just a crazy amount of pressure, so maybe that one weakness was.
Isn't there a lot of pressure in space? Or no, maybe there's no pressure in space.
No, I think space is the opposite.
Okay,
it's like a vacuum.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Ooh, so even being at the bottom of the ocean, that must have really affected them too, their minds and their because I was thinking, my husband was watching this thing where it's like deep diving, I think it is, anyways, there's like this long rope that goes really, really deep, and they have to hold their breath and go down as deep as they can, but they go to this certain point, they're passing out, throwing up, and that's not even that far. So that must have had an impact too.
Yeah, I bet it would. I don't know how much the ship would shield them from that, but
yeah,
I feel like the ship would shield them, but I don't know.
But it was made for I guess it was made for space, but obviously they had to think, if we land and it goes into the ocean, we've got to prepare for that. Even though they didn't prepare the GPS systems all over the ship or anything like that, but
right,
they might have thought of that.
Yeah, reinforce the glass. And I don't know. That's what I was thinking too with the airlocks that you said earlier. Like, you'd think that they would have to plan for a water landing.
100%.
So you'd have to protect the ship from being flooded. I don't know.
Water landing, mountain landing, any type of landing. You're just plummeting. This giant thing is plummeting into this new. Well, I guess would they fly it in? No, you can't do that. Right? You don't just fly and then fly and land your giant ship.
There had to be some way.
They were probably planning on landing it in some way. Yeah.
Because you can't do that with our ships yet. Right?
Yeah, you can land rockets. Oh, but like manned spacecraft, I think pretty much,
just
for the
throw
most part,
you in there and you land and
throw you in the ocean.
Yeah. But this is way, 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 way 2,713. They probably have that technology.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Presumably they know how to land a spacecraft.
It's unfortunate that we're just spending all of our time making that technology and not fixing what we've done to the Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it does feel like that's part of the message of this movie a little bit.
Feels real.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, like, we're just going to go ruin another planet.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Yeah. Yeah. Humans landing on a planet is probably not a very good prospect for that planet.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Like all this, maybe we could build things on the moon and eventually go to the moon. Leave the moon alone. If we fuck things up so bad here that we're all going to die, I'm sorry, friends. Leave the moon alone.
The moon doesn't want us, okay?
The moon does not want us. Exactly. Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing this movie. I really liked it. Yeah. And it just brought back memories of movies like this that I used to watch a lot. I thought it was really well done. And I loved seeing that really scary monster. And I loved being surprised and totally taken off guard of what was happening and what the result was going to be. So very cool.
I'm glad you liked it. I was worried. I thought you were going to dislike it because some of the acting I feel like is a little weird. There is a lot of moments that you can watch this movie and go like, why are they doing this or that? Or like, what about this? You know, like I feel like there's a lot of places that you can question it and it can seem kind of stupid. But for some reason, like I don't care about any of that. Like I'm just on board for the movie. So I'm like, sure, any of this, I don't care. I like the story enough and the way that they tell it enough that I just forgive everything that could be wrong with this movie. But I feel like some of that stuff was iffy and I was worried that you were going to be like, what the fuck am I watching? We started the movie and I was like, I forgot this movie gets fucking wild because I had kind of forgotten. I remember that there were monsters, but I was like remembering when they find this other guy who has like the like history, like drawn like cave paintings on the inside, you know, like, and I was like, shit, this is about to get zany, but it doesn't really. I feel like it stays pretty grounded.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, I really liked that. I didn't think the only part was when that woman was jumping on everyone. I'm like, they just want to have some acrobatic ninja woman. But then that remedied itself. That one guy, because that's what people do. They do, we think of like way in prehistoric times, right? They tell the stories or they keep the stories like on the wall or carved into something or in books or whatever the case may be. So it makes sense that he would have the stories. And I thought it was a cool idea of like, he's like, sorry, I'm going to eat you. It's not like, oh, we're going to be a team. We're going to try to figure this out. And so I think that there was so much going on that if there were little moments, because I'm pretty forgiving with things like I'm along for the ride. It's just if the acting is really bad, then it takes me out of it, and I can't be along for the ride. But I didn't think that with this particular movie. I liked the acting and I liked it a lot.
Some of the moments with Dennis Quaid for me, I was like, I think we laughed out loud a couple times because I feel like he kind of went from like 0 to like totally acting weird before we knew that they were the same person.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going? It seems like now he's like on drugs. Like at some point he like wakes up in the chair, you know, and he's like, what is this guy on drugs? Did he get drugged? What happened here? And I feel like from that point forward, he starts to act like more erratic, but we don't know. Later we learn that he's one and the same and he's experiencing Pandorum and all of that. So I guess it kind of makes sense, but a couple of those moments were comical because and I don't think they meant for it to be, you know?
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Jade?
I was going to say my one criticism of the movie is just that, like, if I had to pick something, it would be that I don't think, because his injection gun was a sedative, I don't think injecting somebody's eyeball with a sedative would necessarily, like, kill them. I don't even think it would really sedate them, honestly. And so the fact that him stabbing that cook in the eye with the sedative pen or the sedative gun and he was just dead from that point, that to me was a little bit like, I don't think that would kill you. I think that would suck.
Yeah.
But I don't think you would die from it.
I wondered that as well. Because it wasn't that giant. You wouldn't have an eye for sure. Your eye's jacked, but
yeah,
would you be dead? But I was like, well, he is.
Well, he did die, so therefore it must kill you.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, but that's a pretty minor gripe. I think they just needed to get rid of that character. And they could have gotten rid of him in a number of different ways. He could have just bludgeoned him over the head until he died if they really, you know. It's not like they couldn't get rid of him if they needed to. And it was a pretty gruesome death. So it was cool, but it just kind of made me be like, okay, but I was just expecting him to come back. Like he's going to get up and cause more problems in the future. And then he didn't. And so I was just like, oh, he's just dead, I guess. All right.
If you injected a sedative directly into your eyeball and your head, would you not?
I don't.
Because maybe he was still alive. He was just totally sedated. And now he's dead, though, because there was the breach and all of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll say he was just taking a nap.
He was just out cold.
I mean, good.
Yeah.
That's better than drowning, consciously drowning, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay, so now let's go ahead and raid this bad boy. Who wants to go first? Jade, you go first.
Okay. I would probably give it a 4.5. I feel like if it was maybe more high budget, you know, like if it was like a really high budget, super great special effects, maybe slightly better costuming and makeup on the bad guys. I feel like the bad guys were really cool, but if they were, you know, I think about Tomorrow War monsters is my top tier monster. I don't know if you've seen the Tomorrow War, Felicia, but
I haven't.
The monsters in that movie are just, that movie itself was okay, but the monsters, unbelievably terrifying. Like you see them and you're just like, oh my God, no. So if there was something that was a little bit closer to that end of you know, brainless brain hungry zombie type monsters, I'd probably give it a little bit higher. But I think that the acting was good. The writing was really good. I didn't have any problems with the writing. The twist at the end was really cool and exciting. The only thing that really left anything to be desired, I think, was the costuming and the makeup. That could have been a little bit more modern. I think it's just the movie's a little bit old, and so some of that stuff was a little old. I'm glad that it seemed like there wasn't a whole lot of CGI. A lot of it was practical, and I liked that. They did all that really well. Yeah, I'd just say for those reasons, it's not a 5. So I'll say probably 4.5 seems good to me.
It's a solid explanation for scores. Usually I'm like,
Thorough.
because I feel like, didn't really pull my heart. When you say that about the costuming, and then Tawny, you mentioned Waterworld, that was something when I was watching this, totally different themes, but I kept thinking Mad Max. The experience I had when I would watch the Mad Maxes is like the experience I was having when I watched this. But so I'm going to give it a 4. I was looking at all of my different scores and I feel really solid about it. Especially after our conversation and after some of the stuff that Tawny brought about how the story was created and different things like that. I really appreciated it even more. So I give this movie a 4 for all of the reasons I talked about earlier. It pulled my heart, I guess, in the right way.
It did, though. That nostalgia for something that you've never seen is powerful, I feel like.
Yeah.
I am also going to give this a 4 because I love this movie. And the only reason why I can't give it a higher score is similar to what Jade said, but for like the costuming, I didn't mention that at all. But it is something that it does remind me of kind of like Mad Max type stuff, but I don't like that. So it is a little like over the top, I think, in terms of like, the gigantic spikes on the shoulder of the monsters. I don't know. It just feels a little over the top for me. I don't like that as much. And I think that it is a little bloated. I think we could cut some shit. We could cut maybe a couple characters and just slim this up, trim the fat just a little bit, because it is kind of it's kind of complex in a way that I don't know that it fully needs to be, but I don't hate it. I just feel like that's something that could be better. And it's not super scary to me, so I don't know. I have a hard time, I think, going up higher than that. But 4 is good. They're my love movies. 5 is a fucking love.
Yeah.
So,
4 is a really good score from you. Yeah. Wow.
Well, thanks again, Jade.
Yeah, Jade, this was fun. Thanks for being here. We hope you come back.
Yeah, that'd be fun. If there's another movie that I'm crazy about, have me back and I'll talk about it.
I love it.
It's a really fun time.
I do want to tell everybody, we don't have a post out yet, but our 100th episode will be our Patreon pick. So
hell yeah.
100th episode is going to be chosen by all of our listeners.
Yes.
I'm so excited. And our Patreon members, of course. Go ahead, Tawny.
As a reminder, how we do that is we ask for suggestions on Instagram. So anybody can go and throw in suggestions. And then we take that list and we, pull from it and decide which top 5 or whatever that we want our Patreon members to pick. So then the Patreon members will vote and decide the final pick. So very exciting.
So if you want the ultimate power, become a Patreon member.
Yeah.
But we also we cannot wait it really makes a difference when we have a lot of people throwing in suggestions so that we have a lot of different movies to choose from. And that will be our 100th episode.
Hell yeah. Very exciting.
That's perfectly lined up. All right. Well, thank you everybody so much. And thank you again, Jade. We loved having you. This was a fun conversation. If you would like to follow us, go to @2ChicksAndAHorrorFlick. That's on Instagram. The link in our bio will have links out to everything else. We also have a website, 2chicksandahorrorflick.com. From both of those spots, you can join our horror Discord community where we love chatting with everybody. You could buy awesome, super cool, dope merch as well. And you can be linked out to all the different social media platforms. So whatever your social media platform of choice is, we are on there and you could follow us. And what else, Tawny?
You can support the show by giving us a like, review, and subscribe on whatever podcatcher you're listening to us on. And that's it. So we'll see you next week, and we hope you have such a good night. No nightmares!